What's going on, y'all? I told y'all December was going to give some different types of content. And so while I do some work here, I'm just going to have a conversation about some things that I've been either having, conversations I've been having, or some things that I've been thinking about. And so as I work through through this task that I have to do, I'm just going to kind of chat and hopefully you get something out of the conversation on today. So one of the things that I've kind of been having a lot of conversations about here recently, here lately, is just about vulnerability and transparency as a man, and how that's not seen as something that's typical or ordinary for men, right? And there's a lot of men struggling with vulnerability, transparency, um, and so it's like, how do we navigate that, because it's affecting relationships, it's affecting friendships, it's affecting ministries, affecting all these different things, and so um, and so sorry and so in having these conversations, it's like it's important to note that I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be the um, the guru on vulnerability and transparency. You might have to go listen to Tim Ross on that. That's his superpower. And so it's I think there is something I can add to the conversation as well, and we'll transition the conversation so we're not just talking about that either. Um, but one of the things that I had to do for myself is kind of take self inventory of and do that reflection, do that soul work, if you will, to um, do that soul work to identify, like, the pattern at which these relationships have gone is like, if you're single and you've had a relationship before or been in a relationship before, apparently something didn't work, something didn't go right. And so taking those, even if it's not a romantic relationship, even if it's just a friendship, like taking those experiences, taking those unsuccessful moments, if you will, those learning experiences, because it may not have been a failure as you would come to define it as a failure, but it was a learning experience at the end of the day. And so really what I did for myself is kind of take inventory of some of these relationships that I desired or desire. There were some changes that I had to make on my own. There are some things that I have to do that it's not on my ex, it's not on all the friends that I fell out with or are no longer cool with. But there is a part for me to play in these things. And so it's important for me to take personal accountability of myself, do the internal work required to see if are there things that I can and should be doing to enhance my relationships, to ensure that the relationships that I desire, the relationships that I desire or the friendships that I desire are not negatively impacted any longer based off my shortcomings. And so one of the things, so in terms of, especially when it comes to men, and I think this can also be true of women who are highly ambitious, or you know exactly what you want, and there may be some things that, like when God puts something inside of you, when he gives you a vision, when he gives you a burden, right? Sometimes you don't know who to trust that with. and because you understand the weight and the gravity of what you're carrying, sometimes everyone doesn't. And so I think for a lot of men, that's what happens is the pressure that society places on men to be this or to be the provider, to be the protector, to be this, to be that, right? And especially for highly ambitious men and men with a vision and intentional men, it's important to know that sometimes men aren't going to subject someone to that because they don't know, they believe or we believe that we're heavy, we're weighty, and we don't want to put that on, the woman that we're interested in or that we're talking to or friends or social circles, because not even from a sense of lack of trust in you, but it also may be like this is a lot. This is stressful, even for me to even think about. I'm wrestling with God on this, and I don't want to bring you into this so that it puts you in this space of you can't sleep because this because of this dream, because of this goal, because of what the pressure that I'm feeling, and also because there's a masculine sense to it, to where men want to be Superman and appear that we have it all together, and that there is something like nothing can penetrate us, to where we're not showing weakness or showing that we're soft or whatever the case may be, right? And so in order to protect or maintain that image of strength and power, if you will, is I'm not going to open up. I'm gonna just kind of keep this in, and I don't want to. I don't want you to see me in a position where weakness can be assumed, or that struggle can be assumed, because I have it all together. I have degrees, I have money, I have strength, I have physical strength, I have ability, I'm talented, I'm gifted. I don't want you to see me compromised, right? And so a lot of it plays into how society views men and how society views strength and vulnerability in general. So we really have to wrestle with that and become countercultural. But it's like I said, I had to, for myself personally, speaking from personal experience, I had to take do a self reflection, and do a self reflection and say, this isn't working, and this is going to require me to change. This is going to require me to be vulnerable. And there were some times where, in romantic relationships, or women that I was interested in and talking to at the time, where there were times where I didn't open up, and it affected the relationship, or it affected how we communicated, because now this person feels like I don't trust them, and all of these things, right? And so I really had to learn that it's okay to open up, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to, for lack of better words, show a moment of weakness with that person, or even with friends in general, people who are close to you and care about you, that it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to let them know, like, hey, this is what's going on in my world. And two, another thing that we kind of talked about in some of these conversations is recognizing and accepting feedback. And so as a man that is intentional, a woman that's intentional, I think feedback is important. Feedback is very vital to who you are, and so that we're going into being secure in yourself, and secure in who God has called you to be, and secure in the gifts, the talents, and all of that. it's also knowing that there's some truth in the feedback, in in the critiques of others and the critiques of people that you trust and things of that nature. Now, I will say this, that you have to filter the critiques. I was telling someone this week that a lot of times when you step into an arena, when you step into a space, when you step into a creative venture, when you step into YouTube, when you step into podcasting, when you step into ministering or whatever the case may be, you have to understand that there are certain critiques, and a lot of the people that are critiquing have never stepped into the arena that you stepped into, have never done some of the things that you've done, yet they will so easily critique you. I'm thinking about Cam Newton here. If you're a sports fan, you see some of the things that was said about him because of a comment he made, and a lot of the people that had views have never played football on the level that he played it, right? Some of them never played football in general. But they are the ones critiquing him, right? For something he said about the game of football. And so that just kind of aids in the example to say that, hey, when you step out into a venture, when you step out into what God has called you to, it's a foreign land for a lot of people. And so I have to filter the critique, not downplay what was said, because I believe there is some truth in in most opinions. There is some truth in the opinions of others. And so there, take it for what it's worth, and listen with sober ears the advice, the suggestions that people have, right? Maybe the point that you thought was so great in the sermon wasn't so great, or maybe you spent too much time on this particular point, and that's okay, right? It's not the end of the world, and you will get other opportunities to be in that space. Like if you're in a creative space, then you can make another podcast, you can make another YouTube video. Like it's not the end of the world, and so that's one of the things that society kind of homes in on, is the lack of grace, the lack of empathy that we give people. We expect perfection out of imperfect people. That'll preach right there. But in that pursuit of perfection, it's the understanding that we are imperfect people. And so, yeah, I say all that to say, give yourself grace, give people grace, but take personal accountability. Take a look at, these relationships haven't gone so well. These are affecting relationships and with people that I care about. So as a man, I'm going to be intentional and say, hey, I haven't been open, I haven't been honest with you about how I'm feeling in certain situations, or even as a woman, right? Because maybe you have some trust issues in there where I don't really trust men anymore, or it's difficult because of what they did. And so let's talk about that really quick, because it's important, I believe, that we recognize that every man is not the same. Every woman is not the same. That person that hurt you does not represent the entirety of the gender, of a sex, of a people, right? Acknowledge the bad experience, but how do we move from this and trust God with, what is next? And so, relationships are risky. Relationships they're tough. They're tough without God. They're tough with God, because we're dealing again with imperfect people. And so a lot of times we're expecting perfection out of people who are imperfect, and that's not fair to them. That's not fair to us, right? So I don't even remember where I was going with that point of, I know I was talking about, every man's not the same, every woman's not the same. And even to this point where it's like, how do I how do I know what a man is interested in or a woman is interested in, right? Like just don't assume, like we make a lot of assumptions in general, but don't just assume that every man is into video games or every woman likes flowers. Don't make those assumptions. Um, like, and also eliminate the pride enough to ask the questions, right? To get to know a person, to know what they like. Like if you bought me 2K, then that's cool, thanks. But I don't even have a PS5, Xbox. I don't have a gaming system, so that does me no good. But if you get to know me, then you would know, this is what Che likes. This is what he dislikes. So let me um, gift him in this area, right? Or if he's not a gift person, he's more of a word of affirmation person. Let me send him a nice text, or just saying like, man, I enjoyed that episode, or I enjoyed this. I appreciate that. Or if they're acts of service, do something for them. All that kind of stuff, right? And so it's important to know who you are talking to. And I think what we eliminate a lot of times, so I'm gonna go here with the conversation, is you can learn a lot through observation. If you're intentional, I believe you can discern or even figure out investigation about what a person is interested in or what they like. So if you're doing your homework, And I think that's the benefits of being intentional, to being calculated. Like if it shows thought, it shows that I thought about this and I'm not just on a whim. Once you get to know a person and you see that their favorite color is this, or they really like flowers, or they don't really like flowers, they would prefer you take them somewhere, and all of this kind of stuff, even in your friendships, right? To know them that labor among you. Y'all wanted some scripture. There you go. Know them that labor among you is also from that standpoint, to know who it is that you're around, and recognize their gifts, knowing when to pull them into certain conversations, and being secure enough to know that this isn't my strong suit, but my friend over here, that's what they do. So let me call on them, right? Let me give them the moment. Let me give them the platform. So, yeah, I think there's a lot that could be said, and that we have to kind of work through as men, as women of God. It's very important. So I don't want to just keep y'all in on this video. I'm going to end this one. I may do another one because I'm still working here. So I hope, part of the conversation was impactful for you. And just thinking about being open, being vulnerable, being transparent with what's affecting you, what you're going through, what you're experiencing, and not discounting it. And just being intentional about the friendships that you have and relationships that you have. If you desire to be in that space, if you desire to continue and have healthy relationships with people, you're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to share some things that you might not have been comfortable with. And if they use it to hurt you, to kill you, to whatever, right, kill you figuratively, it speaks more to them than it does about you. So I think you do have to steward your vulnerability, steward your transparency, to know that, the first time meeting, I'm not telling you everything, but as we evolve in this relationship, as we grow together, there's a measure of vulnerability and transparency and trust that I will allot to you. So just wanted to leave you with those thoughts, and cold conversations, I guess. But yeah, I hope this helped.